Alright guys, welcome to another beer review and revisiting an absolute classic. I say revisiting, my old video of this one has long since been deleted because I initially recorded my review of this beer when I was doing my Clueless Drinker reviews on my film related channel. Some of you may actually remember if you've been a long time subscriber because it was one of my first actual uploads as the Clueless Drinker. Most of you will probably weren't even around then, obviously, because I probably had about 5 subscribers when I uploaded that review. And I think at some point last year, or maybe towards the end of 2015, I started looking through the reviews that I had uploaded already and going through beers where if I can't get that again, I'm going to download the review, delete it, and then re-upload it on the channel. And this is one of the beers because it's so widely available to me. It's inexpensive. I could get this 365 days of the year here in Germany, well, except Sundays of course and most holidays. But it was just like I could pick it up anytime and do a review of it. And I think this is long overdue, as I think by the time you'll see this I'll have had about 430 reviews online. Probably should not mention stuff like that because it could be review 527 or something like that when this finally gets uploaded. And yeah, I had the Weltenberger Kloster Assambock last night record a review of that one because, again, why did I not record a review of that beer? And I was like, I'm on a bit of a Doppelbock kick, and I thought, why not on this absolutely gorgeous Saturday early summer evening, because it's actually quite cool, it's been raining, which thank you, why not have another Doppelbock and revisit the literal daddy of the Doppelbock and the beer that I think actually kick-started the Paulaner Brewery. So this is clocking in at 7.9%. Beautiful artwork. The artwork is as iconic as the name Paulaner and as iconic as the name Salvator. Beautifully presented, very traditional looking, and there you've got the Paulaner crown. So yeah, just think of how many beers, how many breweries have tried to replicate this beer, how many breweries and beers have come about because of this beer. It's just another footnote in the rich and indulgent book of German brewing history. And it's one of those beers that is probably the most widely consumed Doppelbock outside of Germany. I'd imagine so. It's up there with the likes of Assambock, Celebrator from Eyinger, and beers of that ilk. And yeah, before I start recording this review, it's always been on my mind why beers, well, Doppelbocks, end with Ator. Again, like Maximator from Augustina, Palmator, which I can't remember which brewery that was. There's been so many that I've tried, but a lot of them I haven't actually reviewed for some insane reason. What else was there? There was Celebrator from Eyinger, which I mentioned not 1 minute ago and completely forgotten about it. And I was always like wondering why did these beers end with a tour? Is there some like meaningful reason behind it? You know, considering that I've been wanting to know this for a few years now, it was just one simple Google search away. And without going into a history lesson, the reason why you get Doppelbocks that end with Ator is because when this beer first came about, of course, other breweries, other monks wanted to cash in on this, so they would brew similar beers and call it a Salvator, a Doppelbock Salvator. So, of course, there was a law passed where, you know, these guys own the name of it, so nobody could call their beer the same. And that's why you got so many people naming their beers something Ator, blah 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 Ator. So it sort of just snowballed from there. Quite anticlimactic from a beer historian point of view, but just another intriguing story. about brewing history. I'd love to do a little series on like the history of German brewing culture and that sort of thing, maybe at some point in the future. But yeah, the Salvator, a beer that I have drank on numerous occasions, and spoiler alert, I've enjoyed it greatly. So, whoa, 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 got a gusher. I'll have to mop that up in a minute. Yeah, that was a lively one for whatever reason. It's going to make the table so friggin' sticky. I haven't had a gusher for ages. But anyway, beer in the glass, and that is got a lovely sense of clarity to it. It's a little bit paler, actually, than I remembered it being. I had more of an image of like a really rich mahogany, but this is more of like a ruby chestnut sort of look. It looks considerably darker, thanks to the lighting and the camera. But yeah, it looks really, really nice, like a really deep sunset, almost. Beer poured with, well, it had a massive head, but that subsided quite quickly. So we've got just a lining of an off-white, light brown head. But yeah, you can smell it from here. It's just such an indulgent smelling beer already. But yeah, looks absolutely wonderful. Let's see what we get on the aroma. You get a nuttiness in there, like caramel covered nuts. A lovely sort of spicy rye character coming out of this one. Very bready, like a slightly singed bread crust. Cranberries I'm getting in this one, lots of sort of berry-like fruits in general. Yeah, and then you get lovely biscuity, cakey tones in there. Like a spiced rum cake or something along those lines. At 7.9%, you do get a slight bit of a booziness, but it's not a harsh, like full-on alcohol aroma. It's more of a, reminds me of like a dessert, a sort of liqueur or a dessert wine or a cooking sherry sort of character. It's got a lovely sweetness to it. But yeah, lovely woody tones. It's got that sort of like barrel-esque aroma coming from it. But at the same time, it's got all of these flavour profiles, but they're just blended so beautifully together. And there's really no real domineering, offensive aromas coming out of the glass. You just get images of like winter when you smell this beer. And you get that from a lot of the darker Doppelbocks in general, to be honest. So I just can't stop looking at that like puddle on the table. It's very, very upsetting. Yeah, it smells absolutely wonderful, as to be expected. Anyway, Prost. For some reason in my head, this reminds me of like the boardroom from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. You've got these very masculine, like manly men of the 70s. Yeah, you've got musk in the air. You've got that like tobacco smoke. You've got the whiskey emanating out of the glass. You've got like sophisticated aftershave. It's a very mature and, forgive me for sounding sexist here, but manly drink, if that makes sense. This is definitely a beer that you do not want to chug. This is a beer that you respect because that alcohol, especially on the back end as it goes down, is quite present. But not in an offensive or like horrible way. it's just like it's telling you that it's there, and it's saying you better enjoy me, you better sip me. You're going to be drinking me for a while. Those berry fruit tones come through really, really nicely, and then they're met with that lovely bready, malty, malted loaf sort of character. That rye character that I was getting the aroma is coming out on the palate as well. Very spicy, and it's tingling your tongue. It leaves your mouth very, very sticky. And again, I was reviewing the Weltenberger Kloster last night, and that was like almost sessionable. But this is just amping it up a little bit. And I think it actually works. Some people might find the alcohol a bit too harsh. It does remind me of the warmth that you get from like a bourbon or a whiskey. That's what it's reminding me of. You know what? It would be so intriguing to barrel age a beer like this, to see what complexities and how flavours subside or develop. It's pretty much full on beer. And it's probably one of the more aggressive dark Doppelbocks, if that makes sense. It knows its place, it knows its reputation and its history, and it doesn't shy away from it. It's so full of character, it's so robust, it's so stark, and you could see why people would want to replicate a beer like this. I mean, of course, there have been obvious changes over the years, because I think this, we're talking hundreds of years that this beer has been brewed. So, of course, with the way the environment's going on and the times in general and how science has, progressed, the recipe will have alternated very slightly. But it's got that rustical, historic sort of essence about it. It's like, it's the pioneer that's maybe a little bit rough around the edges, and other breweries have come and gone, done their interpretation of the style, maybe refined some of those rough edges. But it's got such a personality to it. And I can definitely see why people absolutely adore this Doppelbock. World class beer, 10 out of 10 from me. Is it my favourite though? At this point, I'm going to say no. But I would love to do a video where I have like my 3 favourite Doppelbocks together, compare them, let them fight it out. Even though, no matter what the outcome, there'll be beers that I will always buy. And you know what? There's like a lot of drying going on my tongue right now. Reminds me of like when you've put powdered ginger in something, and you can feel it. Not really numbing the tongue, but it's doing something to the tongue. That's the sort of thing that you're getting right now. Lovely warming sensation as it goes down. And yeah, 10 out of 10, world class beer for me personally. My bias towards the style is probably playing into that, but for me personally, at less than €1 a bottle, I can get it pretty much any day of the week. That always factors into it. Comparing it to other Doppelbocks, yeah, there are some parts that I like about this that I don't like in some others, and there are some parts that I like in some others that I don't really like in this. Well, it's not really a case of not liking, it's just in terms of preference, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a beautiful beer, and if you haven't tried it, do yourselves a favour. Go to whatever your local bottle shop is, whatever your website of choice is, just look in the Doppelbox section and pick 2, 3, 4, 5. Pick the whole range of Doppelbox. And make sure that the Salvator, is one of those beers, because it's an absolutely beautiful beer. And for the people who shit on lagers, give a Doppelbock a try, and you might reconsider things. Anyway, if any of my friends and people who I follow have reviewed this one, as always, their links are included down below. God, I've gone on for 15 minutes. Apologies about that. Check out my Paulaner playlist as well for some more fantastic reviews from an absolutely fantastic brewery, in my opinion. Check out my Doppelbock playlist as well for some more exemplary examples of the style. Probably butchered that word. And yeah, hopefully you'll join me next time for a much more cohesive and fluent beer review. Anyway, I've been a clueless drinker. You've been a wonderful audience. Don't know why I'm changing my outro. Thank you guys for watching, and I shall hopefully see you all later. Prost.